Welcome, everybody. My name is Dave Bryant. I'm the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Local Government, Environment and Development Planning. And I'm joined tonight by honourable members from the Western Cape Provincial Parliament for this public hearing on the Western Cape Land Use Planning Amendment Bill. And our responsibility tonight is to listen to your inputs and to consider those and ensure that they are all taken into consideration during the deliberations around this particular bill. And thank you so much for coming out to make your comments on the bill, which we are going to be discussing this evening. I am going to give members an opportunity to introduce themselves so everybody knows who the honourable members are joining us this evening. And we can start off on this side with Member Masipa.
He was arrested.
Good evening.
Or sentence sent by the authorities to
Sorry, someone's mic on. DW.
The last sight of Lorca was with a truckload of other victims on the road to their anonymous execution.
I think someone's watching TV or something.
Is it dark?
Sounds like
No
a
one
radio.
knows who pulled the trigger.
Okay. All right. Sorry about. Oh, he's back. Okay. Sorry about that, Member Masipa.
Good evening, Honorable Chair, and good evening to the House. My name is Noku Masipa. I'm a member of this committee. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair, and all in attendance. I am Leon van Wyk, a member of this committee.
Good evening, Chair, and all community members. I'm Donita Stevens, and I'm an alternative member on this committee. Thank you.
Good evening, goeienaand. Ek is Grant Maree en ek is 'n lid van hierdie komitee. Dankie.
Good evening, goeienaand, molweni. I'm Beauty Stoffels, dililungu la le committee. I'm a member of this committee. Ek is 'n lid van die komitee.
And just to check, members online, if there are members online, please introduce yourselves.
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, colleagues. Good evening, community members. My name is Noel Constable, and I am a member of this committee. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Carola Koblitz. I'm here representing the Western Cape Property Development Forum.
Thank you very much, Carola. We're just doing the honourable members from Parliament first, but thank you for that introduction. If possible, just so that we can get into the meat of the session, those members those participants who are online, if you could possibly in the chat box for us, just pop your name and the organization you represent if you are representing an organization, just so that it makes us a little bit easier for us to identify who's online and so that we can make sure that your comments and inputs are properly captured. So if you can just in the meantime go into the chat box and just type your name and the organization you represent. Sitting next to me today is Mr. Johan Kutsia, who is our procedural officer. And we also have representatives from the department who are going to be assisting with the presentation. I see we also have a councillor from the city. Would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Councillor Richard Hill from Ward 58. Good evening, Chair, and good evening, participants. Thank you.
Do we have any other councillors or public representatives present? No? Okay, fantastic. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to then hand over to Mr. Kobus Munro. Just in terms of the legislation we are discussing tonight, it is the Western Cape Land Use Planning Amendment Bill B3-2025. And this bill aims to update the Western Cape Land Use Planning Act of 2014 about how land is used and developed in the Western Cape. It includes changes that Mr. Munro will go through. He's not going to go into specific detail about every single item on the bill, but he's going to touch on the key points just for those who are not familiar with the legislation being proposed. So, Mr. Munro, over to you. Yes, Member Marais.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm so sorry, Mr. Munro. Just wanted to make sure about this fact. This is a public participation hearing, and I've just checked on the calendar of the Western Cape Parliament. I don't see it loaded on today's calendar. I just wanted to make sure that that has indeed gone out, or how does people access it that still wants to access the particular sitting? Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Kutsia, if you can just advise from a procedural perspective.
Chair, I'll have to go and have a look and see why doesn't it reflect.
So the advertising processes were all undertaken, and it was advertised to all of the various municipalities, the ratepayers associations, etc. So it has gone out, and it has been advertised in the newspapers and the media as well, along with the Western Cape Provincial Parliament's website. But I'm not sure why it wouldn't be reflecting on the program. But it's certainly something we can look into, and we'll hopefully be able to report back to you a little bit later. Mr. Munro, over to you.
Thank you, Chair, honourable members. Just before I start, Kobus Munro, I'm from the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning. To my right-hand side, our HOD, Mr. Gerard Gerber, and Mr. Theo Rebel on my left-hand side, representing the department. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go not through the bill with you. I see the fact that you are here, you've probably read it, and you're ready to comment and participate. So I am merely going to highlight just a few of the more important aspects of the amendment bill. A lot of the amendments are very small technical amendments, improvements to the wording, and I'm not going to bore you with that. So I'm going to just quickly on the screen now, what is this act about, why we need to amend it, and how we will amend the act, and the broad overview of some of the amendments. Too many buttons here. Apologies, colleagues. Wil jy nou nie aanskuif nie?
Yeah.
Yes.
Chair, whilst we are waiting for our presenter, there's a matter be raised by Member Marais, and we take that matter very seriously. There is members of the community who want to participate in this debate, but they are stuck, Chair. The link is not there. And to our surprise, there is people who's on the platform online, and we're just wondering how did they get that link, whilst others didn't get. So can that problem be solved so that there can be a fair participation within this public hearing with the people of the Western Cape? Thank you, Chair.
Very much, Member Stoffel. So the other public hearings we've had have all been physical. This is the first one that we're having this evening that is hybrid. So people obviously have an opportunity to attend in person, and many people have, which is fantastic. And there also has been an opportunity to request to participate online. Mr. Kutsia, can you just advise how that process has been undertaken so far?
Chairperson, yes, our advert was very clear, and when we advertised the public hearing or public hearings, it was very clear that if people would like to join tonight's one online, they can request the link by emailing me. And as soon as I get their email address, then I would email them the link. And that explains why the other people that's on the platform is on the platform, because they've requested the link. If people don't request the link, I can't just put the link out there. So they needed to request the link. So I was available on WhatsApp and I was available on my email. And the people that's on the platform requested the link. The chairperson, then also about member Marais' issue. I must apologize. I think there were some IT gremlins that crept in because the other hearings were on the program or on the calendar. So my apologies. I don't know what happened there, but I will go into it a bit further.
Thank you very much for that explanation. All right, Mr. Munro, over to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Western Cape Land Use Planning Act has been in operation now for 10 years. It was enacted in 2014, implemented in all our Western Cape municipalities since 2015, 2016. Some municipalities implemented. We implemented the Act over a 16-month period, one by one by the municipalities. So all of them have been in operation roughly now for 10 years. The Act is not the only Act that regulates municipal land use planning. That space is fairly complicated. We have a national act, and I think some of you recognize the word SPLUMA. It refers to the Spatial Planning and Land Use Management Act. That is our national act that regulates planning. It is a framework legislation. It doesn't have a lot of detail in it. So the Western Cape have a Land Use Planning Act, the one on the green block on the screen, that provides more guidance to our municipalities, further standards, further procedures, but it is still framework legislation as well. And then at the bottom of the screen, you see there are bylaws. So each of the 25 municipalities in the Western Cape then have also their own set of bylaws, which must comply with both the Land Use Planning Act and SPLUMA. So it is complicated. It is a difficult space to regulate. But our municipalities have done well over the last 10 years, but there are areas that we need to improve. We've had now experience of 10 years, and we need to improve the legislation, and I'll tell you quickly why we are improving the legislation. So it's not new, it is making the existing legislation better. So the main thrust of our effort is to reduce regulatory burden. We need things to move faster in terms of development. On average, development applications in Africa take very long. In our metros, the National Treasury has measured how long it takes for a development to be approved, and I'm referring to all the different aspects of development approvals. On average, 6.5 years. That's how long it takes. So that is not ideal. We need to move things faster, otherwise we can't get our jobs, otherwise we can't get our economy moving. One of the more important things, and I'll stand still with that one a little bit later, is to allow more discretion to our municipalities with respect to public participation. I'll get back to that one. It is new legislation, so it takes time and it is a complicated process. So what are we amending? As I said, we need to improve on certain definitions, new things that we introduce. I'll show you now. Mostly, as I said, it's about the ease of doing business improvements, the administration of development applications by our municipalities, allowing municipalities more flexibility. I'll come back to that. Avoiding unintended consequences. When these three laws were written in between 2012 and 2015, it wasn't perfectly aligned. As I say, three different spheres of government writing legislation more or less at the same time. There was always going to be improvements that is going to be necessary. So that's what we're doing now. Yeah. So we've added a few definitions. The consolidation of land. We had a question last night about that. If there are interest, I can explain why we had to define that, but there was no definition of that in the Act, and we had to insert that. Inclusionary housing, that is a new concept, which I will explain just now. We have to improve other definitions, subdivision of land and also the restrictive conditions of title versus servitudes. That is a big improvement in the legislation at the moment. To remove or amend a restrictive condition in a title deed requires a very, very onerous public participation process, often having to send registered letters to every single landowner in an entire township. And sometimes for something as small as a pergola or a carport or something. In many instances, the public participation costs more than the actual carport. So those are the kind of unintended consequences of our existing legislation that we are trying to fix going forward. Then, in terms of our spatial development frameworks, there are quite a few areas that we had to improve the wording and how we approve our STFs and how do we approve amendments to our STFs. I'm not going to go into those details, but that what is important is the concepts of compliance versus consistency and deviation. So our municipalities put a lot of effort in planning ahead their municipal areas and come up with spatial development frameworks that set out the future planning for their area. So when developers come and make proposals in municipalities, it's important that we agree what does it mean when that development is in compliance with that municipality's planning, is consistent with that plan, or whether it is not consistent. And therefore the municipality may refuse such a development proposal that does not fall within the scope of their planning for their area. But we need to all agree, what does that mean? What does it mean if something is consistent? And what does it mean when something is deviates? So we spend a little bit of time to make sure that those definitions are the same for all our municipalities, because we don't want in the 25 municipalities, each municipality to have a different interpretation of what it means. Validity periods have become more and more important. In rugby, they talk about use it or lose it. So if a developer gets an approval to develop something, whether that is a shopping center or a residential development, anything, the municipality has to ensure that that development has engineering services, water, electricity, sewage. But if that developer doesn't start with that development, it means the municipality must keep that engineering services available until that developer one day decides he now wants to start. Now, that is not fair, and that's not good planning towards other developers who also wants to develop in that municipality, communities that need those services. So what we do now is to set validity periods for the time frame within which a developer must start something. And if he doesn't make use of that opportunity, the municipality will say, look, sir, Mr. Developer, we now have other people who need these services. We are going to let your application lapse for now. You're welcome to come back and reapply, but for now, there are other developers who needs to move forward. So that was important. The other thing is that we've expanded the list of other conditions. Apart from the validity period, there are also other conditions that municipalities must think about imposing. Very important one is the provision for inclusionary housing. Now, let me just explain quickly, very simply, what inclusionary housing means. The government provides subsidy housing for people earning below 3,500 Rand a month. So that's subsidy housing. The government takes that responsibility. The people earning top earners access the banks, but for that you need to earn 27,000 and more per month for the banks to start considering giving you a loan. So if you earn between 3,500 and 27,000 Rand a month, that is what we refer to as gap housing or affordable housing. So those are people that have a job, but they still struggle to access finance from a bank. And nobody is building houses for that sector. So single mother with a job, simply almost impossible at the moment to access a job. So what inclusionary housing does is if a development for the top end is developing in your municipality, the municipalities are considering a condition to say to that developer, you are welcome to develop, but we are going to ask you to provide a certain percentage for the gap housing market. And that is referred to as inclusionary housing. So we have included a definition for that so that we all know exactly what we talk about, so that the one municipality do not interpret that differently from another one. So that's for consistency purposes. The other two I'm not going to go through now. We can deal if there are questions. We had to improve the definition of subdivision for township establishment, again, to make sure that in the Western Cape, we do that in all our municipalities in the same way. Remember, it's not only planners involved when we establish new residential areas or new businesses. It involves the Surveyor General, it involves the Deeds Office, it involves the valuation roles. So there's a long list of people that must work together to make sure new property is created in the same way in the Western Cape. So we needed to make sure that in the Western Cape, it is a uniform process and everybody understands how it works. There are a few more exemptions for subdivisions of agricultural land. We don't want to duplicate processes. We recognize that there are other acts that deal with subdivision of land, for instance, the subdivision of agricultural land, and we will exempt you from that process if there is another act that deals with that process effectively. I'm nearly done, Chair. And then to be less prescriptive. Now, to municipalities with respect to public participation. So let me just be clear on this. The repeal of section 43 and 44 in the Act means that municipalities have more flexibility from the provincial government to decide on public participation. That, however, does not mean less public participation. It doesn't mean that public participation will not happen. The onus on the municipalities to make sure that the communities are aware of what is proposed in their area is still compliant or subject to the Promotion of Administrative Justice Act. And it is as onerous as what is currently in the Western Cape Land Use Planning Act. So by removing those two sections from the provincial legislation, simply removes duplication. It does not mean the public will now no longer be informed of what is going on in their municipalities. But I'm sure we're going to have questions and we can come back to this point. So I've already mentioned the ease of doing business and to provide exemptions from other procedures that have already gone through public participation to take decisions based on such procedures already taken under other legislation. The last thing that I want to stand still with, we need to make sure that when we have emergency situations, colleagues, that we are able to move faster. If there's a fire in a community and we have to move people to safer places, we cannot have situations that the legislation prevent us from being safe and putting people out of danger. Now, our previous legislation had very onerous and mandatory requirements of our minister. He has to report to the cabinet within 48 hours, and a few very, very onerous requirements that made it very difficult for us to move fast. So we are making that easier for us to do that. To give you an example, during COVID, I think you will recall that our post office was starting to struggle during COVID periods, and our legislation requires people to be served with registered post. Now, it became completely impractical during COVID to send somebody a letter through the registered post. It simply didn't work. So we had to very quickly change the legislation and make provision that we could communicate with communities through other methods of public participation, which is not in the legislation. But it was a very difficult task with the very onerous regulations to change that quickly. So we need to be able to, and more nimble to move quicker in emergency situations like that. Colleagues, that's it from my side. Very quickly, running through the main points of the new legislation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Munro, for providing that context. I see we have some more people arriving. So I'm just going to give them an opportunity to take their seats. Unfortunately, they have missed the presentation, but I'm sure they're all well read up and have the documentation already to make their submissions. So just to explain how the process works, it's not a debate this evening. It's a public hearing. So what that means is that we will give all of you who wish to do so an opportunity to make a representation of 2 minutes orally on the microphone. You are also welcome, if you wish to do so, to submit a written copy of your submission if it is a bit longer than the 2 minutes, or if you would like to do so, you can make only a written submission with the officials outside the door. So we still have some more people coming in. You just take your seats. Thank you so much. If I can also just ask, if possible, if your phone isn't on silent already, if you can please place it on silent, that would be great. It just helps when we are taking the submissions. All right, so we're going to take the first set of hands. The way we normally organize this is people will raise their hands and you can go take up those seats that are over there. How many seats do we have, Sheldon? 5. Okay, so the first 5 submissions, if you would like to raise your hand. Okay. Sorry, Wayne, if we can just try organize the seating here. All right. Anybody else who wants to make an oral submission, please raise your hand. We have 2 people so far. Is there anybody else who wants to speak on the bill? Right. Okay. So we'll take the first then 2 people. After we've done the submissions in the chamber, we'll then go across to the online platform to see if there's anybody online who wishes to make a submission as well. So if we can then, give me 1 second. If we can then start, after 2 minutes, a little alarm will go off and I'll give you an opportunity then to make your closing remarks. So sir, if you want to go first, please introduce yourself as well. And if you can, whether or not you support the bill or you don't support the bill. Thank you.
Oh, okay. That would be a difficult question to because my answer would be a bit of both. We support, but also not. My name is Kenneth Matlawe. I'm representing a social movement called Housing Assembly. And let me try and just use 2 minutes to say that as the Housing Assembly, we welcome the Western Cape Land Use Planning Amendment Bill of 2025 as an important attempt to improve the current land use planning framework. The amendments represent a significant step towards modernizing the system, reducing unnecessary red tape, and aligning provincial legislation with the Spatial Planning and Land Use Management Acts, PLUMA. We commend government for recognizing the shortcomings of the existing act and for proposing reforms that aim streamlining procedures, clarify definitions, and make land use planning more responsive to urgent and social needs. However, while we acknowledge the improvements, we remain deeply concerned that the bill does not go far enough in embedding community participation and democratic decision-making. The very communities the most affected by land use planning decisions, working class residents living in informal settlements, backyard dwellings, overcrowded rental housing, and RDP houses are not positioned at the central stakeholders in shaping the planning framework or in approving major developments. I might not be having enough time to go through the specifics of where we disagree and where we agree. Maybe after we can forward the written submission. So we propose the following. We propose that institutionalized community participation. We must establish a mandatory community forums or advisory committees in every municipality where affected residents, social movements, and civic organizations participate directly in reviewing and shaping spatial development frameworks and major land use applications. The law should set clear minimums for inclusionary housing. For example, a requirement that at least 30% of units in large development are reserved for inclusionary housing. Sorry, it shouldn't be out in the open and vague like that. Also, notices must be accessible through local ward committees, community radio, and area-based meetings, not just through digital platforms, because not everyone has access to these platforms. Lastly, there must be community veto or co-design rights. For major rezoning, subdivisions, or developments with significant impact, affected communities should have the right to block or condition approvals through collective decision-making processes. I hope that covers the gist of our submission today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you are more than welcome to submit the rest of that information, either electronically or after the meeting to the officials. Thank you very much. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Raymond Baines. I'm from Swartland, Bahamasbury. I'm representing all beneficiaries in Bahamasbury on housing project. I don't see the clarity on my issue. Is on this paper is about the criteria of the age under housing that 60 and above must get privilege first to get houses. I just want to ask, we respect that criteria, but I want to ask, is there under that criteria of age, is there a total, like example, if there's 3,000 houses gonna be built, is there total that 1,000 must get 60 and above, or 2,000, or 50, or because the question also we want to ask is, when must they come down from 70, 65, 60, 58, 59 till 45? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the submission and the question of clarity. Once we've finished all of these submissions, I'm going to give Mr. Murray an opportunity just to respond to some of those. So thank you very much, Raymond. All right. Is there anybody else who would like to make oral submission? Please, sir, you can please go take a seat over there if you can. Is there anybody else who would like to make an oral submission? Who is present in the House? Okay, so this will then be the last round of oral submissions in the House, if there's no one else. So please speak now if you do want to make a submission. Okay, after this, then we will go to the online platform, sir. And if you can just please remember, introduce yourself at the beginning. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is John Vadeskai. I come from Bergrivier. Place that I come from Bergrivier is Viaaldorp. I just want to make a short submission. out of my head and out of a paper. Uh, we all know the history of this land ever since 1652 when Jan van Riebeeck and fellow criminals came and stole our land. That's when the problems began. But now there are laws that are being set, or I can say the same people who stole the land is now the people who are gonna be protected because there are bills and laws that's gonna protect them to keep that stolen land. So our submission is we want more public engagements from even members of legislature, members of parliament to engage with our people on the ground on a monthly basis, maybe to assure our people, the landless people, the jobless people, the people that's unemployed. They must assure our people that they will give our people land because without our land, we have no dignity. Remember when the fellow criminals came here, they took our land. They didn't take only our land, they took our dignity. So what we want to submit is we must expropriate this land without compensation. Thank you.
Very much for that submission, Mr. Van der Scope. All right. Yeah, the online platform. Can I just ask if there's anybody on the online platform who would like to make a submission? Please raise your hand. I know we have a number of groups that are present. We've got the Kenilworth Improvement Districts, the Constantia Hill. Hang on a second. Just turn your microphone on there, please. Can hear. Can you hear now? Yes. Okay. All right. So if you would like to make a submission on the platform, please raise your hand and we will then give you an opportunity. Was that clear? Okay. Okay. What is that? What's that saying? Yes. Who's that? Carola. All right. So Carola, if you would like to go first, I see you've just spoken in the chat box, and then we'll take the next person after that. So Carola, over to you. Just turn your microphone on and start speaking. There we go. We can hear you.
Councillor, I was just saying that we understood what you were saying. I have no submission to make at this point in time.
Okay, fantastic. So then the other person with their hand up, DW, who's that? Debbie Wall-Smith. Would you like to make a submission, ma'am?
Yeah, you know, what was described in the introductory slide it sounded really positive, and I understand the need to ease legislation. My concern is mainly in the Upper Kenilworth Improvement District. The City of Cape Town have produced SDFs, and they just want massive density in an area that will be destroyed by densification. So my concern is this legislation simply going to allow the city to do more? Because it is very alarming for residents who've lived in the area for 20 years and suddenly on a single residential property with the changes in the zoning scheme, you can now have 3 dwellings, you can have parking departures, and you can open a shop. That's the new zoning scheme. It is utterly alarming. And it's also an area that has very few green areas. So what the city wants is 5-story buildings, and they're basically going to be creating, in my opinion, ghettos in the area. It's just frightening. We have this situation already in Wynberg, and Wynberg is not good, where the city have allowed these massive developments, and they want to change the character of an area that works. And yeah, this is my concern. So, and then the other side of it is, how is this legislation going to affect land changes? Like the city have just released a proposed land change for the Maitland area, which includes the Esterplaats area, which has very delicate wetlands and huge green areas, which they're just planning to develop. I would like more information on how those 2 factors are going to be impacted.
Thank you, Ms. Walsmith. Perfect on the timing there as well. Is there anybody else online who would like to make a submission? It's your last opportunity to raise your hand, if anybody would like to. Going once. All right. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Munro, I'm going to give you an opportunity then if you'd like to respond to any of those points that were raised. You don't obviously have to respond to all of them, but if there's anything you'd like to respond to, you're more than welcome to.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think public participation is a very important component of our legislation, not only this legislation, all our legislation, to make sure that our communities are given an opportunity to participate in decision making. So I think, as I said in the beginning, although the legislation proposes to repeal those sections that set minimum standards to municipalities, it doesn't mean that public participation by the municipalities are given a laissez-faire or more freedom to do what they want. The Constitution already determined that municipal planning is a function of municipalities. And so it is not the proposal of this legislation to allow more freedom to municipalities. The Constitution already did that. But we, as I said in the beginning, we already have the Promotion Administrative Justice Act that sets minimum standards, but that's only minimum standards. The municipality should go further than the minimum standards to make sure that the communities are involved. I think we are heading towards a new era when it comes to public participation in any event. In the past, and it's not long ago, as I said, during the COVID years, we were still talking about registered post. Now, we don't get registered post anymore. And also the other requirement for community participation was to put something in the newspapers. Now, that's also not a very effective public participation method any longer. So I think going forward, it's going to be up to all of us to make sure that we find better ways to communicate with our communities. At the moment, PAJA still recognizes electronic communication methods. So that's all the social media that we know of. All of that is allowed, from WhatsApps, text messages, SMS like we used to know them, websites, emails, but still newspapers, still our government gazettes, and still post, direct post. So communities shouldn't be concerned about what this act proposes, that more flexibility is given to municipalities to decide for themselves. They are still bound by the Promotion of Administrative Justice Act to ensure, through whatever means, and if that means loud hailers, if that means notices in libraries, notices in public places, but they must do everything in their power to ensure that effective public participation takes place. So the legislation will always only go as far as setting minimum standards. It's up to the different municipalities who know their communities best. So what will work here in Cape Town will most probably not work in Beaufort West, or will most probably not work in Vredendal or Van Reinsdorp. And that is up to the municipalities to make sure that that happens. So I didn't get your surname, Raymond from Swartland. The age of beneficiaries of housing projects, it's not something governed by our legislation. That is through our municipalities. I wish I could answer that, but I can't. How municipalities decide which age groups are getting priority in terms of housing. What I was referring to is the income categories of people trying to get access to funding through the banks, and not their age categories. And yeah, the gentleman from Bergrivier again emphasized public participation. We already spoke about that. And then Ms. Wall-Smith, the amendments to the Western Cape Land Use Planning Act does not provide the municipality further freedom to do as they wish in terms of municipal land use planning. That is, in any event, from day one, as I said, the constitutional function of municipalities to decide on municipal land use planning. It is not the function of the provincial government to interfere with that function. I do not wish to comment on the plans of the city to densify certain areas. That is their prerogative. Obviously, through public participation, obviously through the right structures. Obviously, the communities have opportunities to participate in that process. And if you're not satisfied with the decisions of the municipal planning tribunals, you can appeal those decisions to the mayor. And thereafter, if you're still unhappy, to even go to our courts. So those processes are protected in our legislation so that communities have a voice to participate in these decisions. Chair, I think for now, unless my HOD.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Munro. Yeah, I saw there were some follow-up chats in the chat box, and those will also be fed through into the public participation. So thank you for making those and for your submission, Ms. Wall-Smith. We do have a councillor present today as well from your sub-council. I think who could also then maybe follow up on some of those concerns and potentially make contact as well. But what we have been doing, the items that are raised that aren't necessarily for the province or for this piece of legislation are then also raised with either the City of Cape Town or the other municipalities that we've been visiting. This is the fourth public hearing we've undertaken in the past month or so. We've been to Stellenbosch, we've been to Saldanha Bay. Last night we were in Plettenberg Bay, and this is the last of those four. So we really have gotten around and heard from many people in the community. I know a lot of you have come out this evening, and I don't want to cut the meeting short if we don't need to, but so I just want to give those who wish to do so one final opportunity. If you would like to make an oral submission in the House, please raise your hand. There you go, ma'am. If you could come take a seat. Is that yes, sir? Please come through. Yes, please. You're welcome. Go take a seat over there. Is there anybody else who would like to make a submission? This will be the final round. The gentleman over there, I think, who's standing up. There we go. Okay. That's great. So if you can just remember, if you can just introduce yourself and if possible, whether or not you support the bill. And we can just pop that microphone on there, Sheldon. Okay, ma'am, you go first.
Good evening, I'm Thiang Faru from Swartland area. I just want to have more clarity about the gap housing. Because I found some difficulties when I go to the municipality in my area. I was on the waiting list. And when I was earning less than 3,500 rand, and now I'm paying more than that amount, so I'm not eligible for a category, the category for a house through the municipality on that thingy. I asked them what is the next procedure to follow. They told me I can put my children on the list, but if they also is above, then how do we supposed to get a home? In that application also was mentioned you can apply for a rent to buy a home, but at the end of the day, that was also not an option. And today I'm actually standing on the ground, homelessness. I'm staring homelessness in the eye at this moment because I don't know which way to go. I'm on the waiting list. I heard about gap housing previously, but nobody can give me actually more clarity about, and I heard it now again about the gap housing. Because for me, I'm standing here, not for me alone. There's a lot of people outside. They're staying in backyard dwellers. I was working for the DA. I was signing up people, staying on people's ground at the back of the people's houses, paying 3,000 to 5,000 rand for rent. But I was in waiting lists for more than 30 years. So I'm just not here alone for myself. I'm just being there for the other people also in asking, is there something else to put on the table for us all to have a proper home at the end of the day? I thank you.
Very much. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Douglas George of the Namaro Laws of Small Business. My question is inclusionary housing. I'd just like to know that inclusionary housing, which you intend, is going to fit into the new developments and included within that structure from gap housing and people who supply who get funds from the banks of 27,000 and upwards. Now, am I correct in saying that within this, if you apply from a bank and there's a development going up, and then they need to make a provision for inclusionary housing, I would like to know, is that going to include only new developments? Or is it going to include developments, existing developments, where they can also open land, also include inclusionary housing within those areas? And how is that going to affect the rate structure of those housing? Thank you.
George.
Evening, everyone. Queen Como from the Namaroya House, RSA. My question is plain and simple. I've heard about a development. We need to give up participation today, but there's a problem. Why does the 40% goes back to national? We're sitting with a huge problem. I see we've got a full house tonight. And I think if we can help each other by getting the co-ops running before we even think of developing the land. Thank you.
Evening. I'm John Olaf here. I'm coming on behalf of Paternoster community. At the moment, it's very, very sad. It's the owners of the land. If you come in Paternoster, you see the people stay in RDP houses, and you see the rich people stay that side, double-story houses. My problem is there's a group SBM. They are, what's the name? SBM Business Group. That group take all the land for development. The people from that area apply for land. They're still waiting in the 3 years. They're still waiting to own a plot. And I mean, it's not right. There's a place, Wolfgat, There was one of the people stay there. They removed him. They told him it's dangerous to stay there because why the house can go in that hole. And at the end of the day, when the people are removed from there, there's a restaurant today. And it's not right to do this to our people. We people don't get a chance to own the land and to do what they want to do on the land. There's another land out club. I don't know how they come and buy that property through the municipality. 3 months ago, I have the meeting with the Minister of Land Reform in Rondebos. I told him about that. And 2 weeks from now, then I will have a next meeting with the land committee, land reform. And I invite the parliament members of land reform committee meeting. I invite them to come down to Paternoster and to investigate what is happening with our people. And I'm staying here in Cape Town. I'm from Bela, and it's very sad to see colored people, how they stay in backyards. And I'm staying in Bela 47 years, and Bela is still the same. Nothing happened in our area, and I'm very disappointed. Certain people benefit, and for me, it's the white people that benefit. All the projects that is done is white people. Our people stay at the back. Thank you, sir.
And the final submission of the hearing, sir, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sindisile Mzana. I'm here representing the community of Philippi, a place called Never Never. There's a squatter camp. I welcome a meeting like this, but my surprise on this meeting for community participation is that they are not effective in our community, because we would like to have this kind of meeting so that we can participate in each and every thing that is happening in municipalities. Because why I'm saying that is because a lot of people, they don't have this information that that some of us have of coming to this meeting like this, because there are a lot of people are out there, they didn't know something like the meeting like this. So we would like the municipality to do bigger things so that they can go to the community, because to come here in Cape Town on this time is for our community is very dangerous. So I support this meeting so that the city must look to go each and every maybe 6 months to go and hold these meetings to the public. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mzana. All right. Yes. Okay. Is there somebody else who also wants to make a submission? Yes, we've got one over there, and over there, and I think yes. Yeah, go for it. Yeah. So that's 3. Anybody else? Okay. If you do want to make a submission, please make it now, and put your hand up, because we'd like to try and get them concluded if possible. All right, so you can go first. Thank you.
Goeienaand. Ek hoop ek kan 'n bietjie Afrikaans praat. My naam is Jacques Salmon, Swartland, Moreesburg. Net 'n vinnige observasie met die vorige spreker wat gepraat het oor backyard dwellers. Nou ek weet nie of dit die regte platform is om dit te noem nie, maar iemand het gesê op hierdie platform ook of verwys na die R3,500 threshold. Nou ek dink dit is onmenslik, of ek wil nie sê onmenslik nie, maar as ons nou kyk na die wat die minimum loon is teenoor die minimum threshold in terme van 'n RDP huis om te kwalifiseer R3,500, wil ek dit onder die aandag bring dat dit is onmoontlik vir iemand in die huidige Suid-Afrikaanse ekonomie om minder as R3,500 te verdien, which means baie min mense, veral backyard dwellers, qualify vir RDP behuising. So iewers moet 'n mens gaan kyk na hoe ons hierdie threshold kan opskuif sodat meer mense kan qualify, want jy los 'n groot hoeveelheid mense buite wat kan kwalifiseer dalk vir behuising. Baie dankie.
Matt?
Evening, comrades. My name is Ibrahim Clausen from Housing Assembly. I think the question is it's relevant to what that gentleman asked about this age restriction. So my question is this: how do the city then elect people from the waiting list? And yet there are so many people that is waiting for 30 years, 40 years on the waiting list. And yet children of 18 years and 20 years are moving into houses. So how do you as a city then, or let me put it this way, as the government then select people that moving into houses, but yet there are old people waiting for 40, 50 years on the waiting list. So how do you guys do actually the selection from the waiting list, or is the waiting list just a myth? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am Elroy Meyer from Swartland Municipality from Malmesbury. And I just have one concern, that this thing of favor of getting a house, I think this must stop. Our people is suffering in our communities. Let us be honest with each other here, because that is the truth. And our disabled people is not seeing in the need of who they are and in the circumstances. Because in the municipality where I am, there's not even a list for the new development in the WIP for our people who are disabled, that needs firstly to them to accommodate them. There's not a thing like that. There's no list. And that makes me very, very worried. Where are we going? And who do we favor? Because those that stays on the farms is getting the credit by getting first houses in our communities. That farm owner is supposed to look after his own people there. And he might make sure that that people is getting into a house. They must get the credit in the new development area where houses is going to be built. And I am here to say, I'm not the one who is going to support this bill, and I'm not going to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Zikona Spelmaza from Bergrivier. I'm here to talk about the land. There's a plenty of land there in Veldrif, but most of people don't benefit from that land. It's only white people that only sell. If you want to benefit from that land, you have to buy it in order for you to own a house. We did try to plead with the municipal, but none of that, any of them had responded regards the land. So, and there's also a problem with the water. We have a water problem there at the Bergrivier, but any of that, it's nothing to them. I thank you.
Very much.
Good evening, members of parliament and everyone in attendance. I'm Mr. Papier from Theewaterskloof. I only have two things that I want to touch on, man. The gentleman spoke about if the developer don't bring his part, we're going to replace him. But there's too many red tape that's attached to replacing a developer. Everyone knows there's contracts. So that's just the cream of the crop, just to close our eyes. The problem that we are sitting with, Minister Gayton McKenzie took us once to Constantia. Will you believe that the horses in Constantia have more land to weigh on than our people? What is that problem? That problem is bylaws. The city of Cape Town don't have a police who police their bylaws. The bylaws and the legislation been checked here in this exact house. But the city of Cape Town have its own laws for Philippi, for Nyanga, for Mitchells Plain, for Kraaifontein. Then he have his own bylaws for Constantia, for the nice bishop areas. So we must more focus on our municipalities, how they practice and reinforce that bylaws to our people. Because we can say amen now, yeah, but we can say hi, icona, when the bylaws gonna be enforced on our people. Because I'm telling you now, chairperson, the horses in Constantia, like Gaten McKenzie said, and so does On the Life, have more privacy and more play park and our children who've been sorted because we don't have greener grass like the horses running there in Constantia. Salute.
Very much for that submission, Mr. Papier. Do we have anybody else who'd like to make a submission? Okay, then let's just check the online platform one more time. Anyone online, please raise your hand. Yes, you would like to make a submission. Sorry, just hang on hang on, please just hang on 1 second. Can you just put your microphone on?
Sorry about that. With all due respect, can I just make a comment on the process that's happening?
Yes, you're more than welcome to. You come take a seat and then you can make your submission. Is there anybody else who'd like to? I think there was another hand. Yes, you are welcome to go as well. Thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay. Yes, sir.
So there's no easy way to say it. Let me just say it. That please, we are taking these submissions very seriously. It took us time to read through these legal jargon documents that is not very accessible in terms of its language to community members. So we took our time to read through it to try and put a submission here. I'm taken aback by the comments of the presenter of the slides when the issue of the age was raised around the housing issue. This bill touches on the housing issue. It touches on inclusionary housing. So if we make a submission in that regard, it should be noted that at least, take it back to consideration. Don't dismiss it in our eyes. Because if you're going to talk inclusionary housing, that 3,500 threshold was set in 1997. If we compare the value of 3,500 back then and now, if we compare the value of 3,500 today, based on the one that was put on this threshold in 1997, it's not the same value. So even if someone qualifies for GAP, the value of that 3.5 is not enough for them to keep in that social housing. So please, we took our time. So we'd also please give us that courtesy and respect that at least you'll go back and consider these things going forward. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that. Just for clarity, so the way it works, every single submission, everything that is submitted and every oral, verbal, written submission, all of that is captured. What we are doing is allowing Mr. Munro the opportunity just to give some responses, just to help people who have questions of clarity. So I can assure you every single one of those submissions is going to be captured. All of the comments that have been made will be captured, and that all will form part of our deliberations in terms of a matrix that comes to our committee. So I can assure you of that, sir. All right. Yes. Sorry, just pop the microphone on. Sorry.
I'm Kashiva Ahmad. I'm also from Housing Assembly. I want to just add on what Kenneth was saying about inclusionary housing. And I think this is one of the big problems we have currently, especially with these developers, because we can see they are just growing now within our communities, and we can see it's our elderly and the poor that's really suffering with these affordable social housing that is in our communities. And when we see our communities, the rent is going up every month, every year.
And then it becomes a thing where people can't afford even to stay there. And we see developers are more about the profits. It's instead of the poor that they are, because what their city is saying, 30% must go to the low income, but low income families don't stay long in those houses. 2-3 years and people is out by the door because they are being harassed, they're being victimized, they're being criminalized. The water and electricity is so expensive. What they are using is this third parties within these developments. The city is not servicing these developments. They are using third parties. And we can see these people are making a huge killing of our poor people. That's why we have so many people that is on the waiting list, go back to the backyard, go back to informal settlements because of these developers. Developers is making a killing out of this. So we need to be very careful also when we talk about affordable social housing. And I would agree with the comrade when she was saying that there should be co-ops within communities. We need to look at that. I also want to check with you when you speak about this emergency when there's fires within communities. What did you mean there when you say that then people needs to be relocated, and what did you mean by that also? Maybe you need to be clear about that, because we don't want a situation when fires are happening within communities, the city is not doing anything about the informal settlements. People are staying for years. It's the same thing every year, floods and fires. Nothing has been upgraded or doing something about it. So what do you mean when you say that then people, municipalities will need to be very proactive in doing those things? So maybe clarity on that.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I think I've been covered in most of the
Sorry,
things
could you
that
just
I
give us
wanted
your
to
name?
say.
Sorry, could you just give us your name?
No, no. But then I just want
Sorry,
to.
ma'am, can you just give us your name?
My name is Pamela Martins. I'm from Observatory in the informal settlement that is along the road if you drive past KFC and McDonald's. I just have a concern that we are given opportunities to come to these meetings, and they are called public meetings, but then decisions are being made, and whatever that we share in these meetings, most of the times we don't see them in action. And secondly, if we're talking about social houses, and then there are ones that were built in previous years. Sorry. But the concern is there are no developments in these houses, because maybe this year I have 2 children, and then in the next 10 years, then it's myself, my daughter that has her own children, and that's how the back dwellers are starting. And then the pipes that were installed there for that house were only for the 2 people. Hence, our people in our locations are sitting in I don't want to mention it here, because currently in Langa, by my aunt's house, if you go there, you cannot even go to the back because of the human waste that comes out of the drain. The drain, the pipes are so small because they were built in I don't know what year that they were built, those houses, and there are no developments at all. So if the house is built this year and there are changes that are happening inside the families, but then they don't revisit to see if it is a proper house to live people. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Chairperson, everybody here present. I'm coming from the Swartland. I can see there's a lot of
Sorry,
people.
just your name?
My name is Melvin Peterson. I'm coming from the place called Mamasbury, 60 kilos here from Cape Town. My main concern here is now currently is they've been building houses there in Swartland, but now the main problem there is our people is staying between the peacocks now. Before they build the houses there was peacocks. For the small boer, the guys who wants to farm, they are there now. So now when you go out by the door, you look into the peacocks now, and it smells there. And the people, what they are doing, if the pigs dies, they leave it just there. So now my concern is that I don't know if it happens in other places, but I've seen in numerous of places where I work that next to the railway line, there's a lot of peacocks and the people is staying between them. And I don't know if it's a provincial thing or is it a municipality thing, but houses get built anyway. The what is this thing? What is those houses that we get the RDP houses? Yes, they get built anyway. And my concern is for those people. They can get sick in the kids, but they want them to, the small farmers, they must get their own land so that they can farm their own stuff. Maybe if they want to farm with pigs, or they farm with horses, because we heard that horses is now there in Constantia and wherever, but give the people their land so that they can farm and make their own money so that they can do whatever they want to do. It is my end. Lastly, can't support this bill. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Chair and everyone. Firstly, I just want to say that I'm from Swartland, Malmesbury. I've built the houses there in the Whoop. I was one of the contractors there. I saw firsthand what was happening there. So I can add on with what was said here regarding that. The peacocks, we couldn't even eat lunch there. So how can we expect people to cook their meals living so close to that pigs? We saw many pigs die there. The small boer, they left it just there. They didn't bother. Flies are sitting on our children's bread if they're eating. We can't accept that our colored people must still live like this. This is wrong. Then secondly, I'm speaking on behalf of the PA. The PA doesn't accept the bill unless the community suggestions are being considered. That's all. Thank you.
Just sorry, ma'am, can you just give us your name? Just your name. Just Aish. Okay, thank you. All right. Do we have any other submissions? We've got one more over there. Is there anybody else? Okay. All right, this will be the last submission then. This is the last submission for the evening. After that, we will then take the final points of clarity from Mr. Munro, and we'll then proceed to the closing. Ma'am, over to you.
Good evening, everyone, Chair and everyone present here. I'm Sheila Galant. I'm from Maitland Garden Village. Our houses in Maitland Garden Village is more than 100 years old. We have those sewage drains in our backyard. As you come out of your back door, you find that drain there. It's connected, the neighbors and mine is connected together. So, but I have the drain. So all their sewage comes to me. And when it blocks, I can't come out of my back door. And for me to have it removed, I must pay such a lot of money. So now something needs to be done about that. That is the one thing that is very, very bad in Garden Village. And then I don't even want to go to the back dwellers. There is place for possible land for back dwellers, for buildings to be built. Nothing has happened in this time in Garden Village. They have parking areas for cars that has been bargained off. We have the Eco Village opposite where Falkenberg Hospital used to be. That is being used for businesses only. Where can our people? We have people that, like the lady said, it's only you and your child, and then the family grows. So what happens is all the houses in the village have back dwellers, and that needs to be seen to. Thank you.
very much, Ms. Gallant, for wrapping things up for us there with the last submission. Mr. Maria, I'm going to give you an opportunity. I know many of the comments, I think, also relate to municipal issues and other issues, but if there is anything relating to the bill that you'd like to respond on in terms of clarity, you're more than welcome to. After that, I'm going to hand over to Member Van Wyk to do the thank you and the closure. But over to you, Mr. Maria.
Thank you, Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish I had answers for all the issues that you raised. I wish that this bill could solve all the problems that we have. So, sir, I apologize if I created the impression that your submissions are not taken seriously. Of course, it's taken seriously. I think what I meant was that this bill is only dealing with a small portion of the challenges that we as South Africans have. If I can write that age issue into this bill, I could, but this is not what this bill is about. Of course, it's important, and of course, it will be related to the correct authorities to deal with that. The emergencies, there was a question of clarity. All that the bill tries to do is, if there are emergencies, if things happen that obviously nobody ever plans an emergency, but if it happens, we need to move quickly. And if you have to move people, I'm not suggesting people need to be moved, but if people need to be moved out of water or out of fire areas, and they are moved onto an area, if it's temporary, while they fix the problem, and that area is earmarked for something else, let's say a sports field or a park or a community hall or whatever, the zoning of that land is earmarked for something else. We need our authorities to change that quickly, to accommodate people in emergency situations. And you don't want, in those circumstances, for the law to stop you. If you need to do things quickly in emergency situations, you need to do them quickly. So it is an honest attempt to be able to respond to real emergencies. There's no other motives here. It's to assist people when we need to assist people. Inclusionary housing, just a final word on that. And a lot of your frustrations is about access to land, access to housing, and that is fully understood. But the inclusionary housing will only deal with a small portion of that problem. The problem of affordable housing is a much bigger problem than what this act can solve. Because what this act is doing is focusing on the private sector. So whenever they develop, is telling them to contribute to affordable housing. That will only ever solve a small part of the problem. It is all of us, all the government, provincial government, municipal government, and local government's responsibility to take this affordable housing challenge more seriously. This will not solve it. If you do the maths, if you go do the sums, if you ask of every developer of private houses to contribute 10, 20, even 30%, you will never address the housing shortage in the affordable housing range. We need to do much more, other programs, social housing, and so forth. So as I say, I wish this act can solve all our problems, but it won't. There are many other opportunities where you as a community must participate just like you've done tonight. There are excellent questions, excellent proposals, which we will take into the process. Chair, I think I'll end it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Munro. And after the meeting, if you're not aware, we also do have some nice drinks and snacks in the members' lounge around the corner. For everybody who's here, you're welcome to come and join and perhaps have a chat with some of the officials if they are around afterwards. Member Van Wyk, I'm going to hand over to you just to do the closing before we break and close for refreshments. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Chair. I immediately would like to thank all of the members of public who've taken the time and the effort to come out tonight. Some of you, I've heard, have travelled from far. And we really appreciate that you have come out and come to express your views. And I think, as Mr. Munro has indicated, many of those aspects do not fall with the ambit of this particular bill that we're dealing with. But certainly from a committee's point of view, we will take note of those observations and certainly pass a message back via the municipalities in terms of the comments that have been made and the attention that they also need to give to what is a much bigger problem in terms of housing, affordable housing. So thank you very much for being here with us tonight. And please make use of the refreshments before you leave. I would also just like to thank the officials and the department for the work that they've done and the process that has been gone through over the last number of weeks, and the various administrative officials have also been involved. And thank you then to committee and to you, Chair, for the work that you've undertaken. Thank you.
Member Murray, just before we close, the issue that you raised, Mr. Kutsia is just going to give some feedback on that.
Chairperson, yes, the public hearing for tonight does not appear on the calendar. However, on our website, the bill is advertised, and if you click on that, it takes you to all the public hearings that we have scheduled. And also there's a link that in green that says what's on. So if you click on that, it takes you to all the activities of the provincial parliament. So although it's not in the calendar itself, it does appear on the website and on 2 occasions, 2 links that you can access it.
Thanks very much. Thank you. All right. Thanks everybody for coming out, and please enjoy the refreshments.